well. We're going to play a fun little Kahoot, so get ready for some game time. And then you're going to be able to connect with your coaches and do a final little session with them before we do our last breakout groups as well. And then dinner will be served at that point, and we can kind of get up, have a bathroom break, those types of things, before we get into our celebration presentations. You get to hear from each school and organization about the wonderful things that you've done throughout the year. And then we have a really special guest tonight that he's going to end our evening with, along with some surprises for you. So we're really excited to kick off this evening, and we're going to see what kind of discussion questions we have. So go ahead and take a look at this picture. And I want you to kind of think about what do you see, what do you think about what you're seeing, and what does this make you wonder, any curiosities that you might have. And then kind of debrief about what has brought you the most joy throughout this year, either at your building, or your organization, or just through LACCS in general, something that maybe you learned from another colleague here or at one of our retreats. So we're going to give you a few minutes to kind of do that at your table, or like I said, if you want to get up and mingle with anyone else, we encourage that. Okay? Thank you.
Okay, so we needed more surprises. And here's the beautiful part about the surprise. Now, this isn't the surprise that you're going to be each getting from those cards underneath, but it is a surprise that will demonstrate the impact that you each have on the students. So I am happy to be able to introduce a former educator who began in the 1960s.
Yes.
Okay, so yes, all right. That is first, but more importantly, this educator had a student, and that student happens to be in this room. This educator followed that student on their journey from childhood to adulthood to back to education to giving back to the students that we all serve. And that teacher is sitting before you today, which is Miss Davies right here, who came again to support the child that she supported when he was little, which happens to be our speaker this evening. So, we are going to have Miss Davies come up to introduce Edward, our speaker for this evening. So thank you so much for coming and being a part of his heart and his imprint, and continue to stand by him.
It's always an honor to have a student recognize you later in life. Edward, I only know him as Eddie, has started in my classroom. I was a high school teacher over at Nicolay High School, and he started as a 9th grader, and then I had him again as a senior. He had so much potential, and there was such a dynamic soul in there that we just never lost touch. And he went through his college years, and then one day I was teaching, and I looked outside of my door, and there he stood with a huge, huge bouquet of flowers. Aww. And he said to me, "I just want to thank you." And as each of you has, I hope you've had that experience, it meant the world to me. It meant that what I had tried to do as a teacher had reached someone. And we've continued our friendship, and I've watched him become a speaker across the nation. He's been every state that I can imagine. He speaks before educators. We've talked on the way over about what his message is and what he's trying to do in his own school. So I'd like to introduce, without my talking, Edward DeShaza. Edward has been in education for 18 years. He is currently the executive director of Greater Holy Temple Christian Academy. GHTCA is a private K-8 school in Milwaukee. Under his leadership, JHTCA went from a 1-star school ranking to a 4-star school in 6 years. In 2021, he was nominated by Biz Times as the notable minority executive in Wisconsin. In 2023, he was nominated as a notable BIPOC executive in Wisconsin. Edward is on the executive board for the Closing the Achievement Gap Consortium, which is a collection of over 40 public and private school systems in southeastern Wisconsin who have united together to create a high-impact professional learning community. I know what he has to say will be of importance and something that all of you are working in your schools and in your classrooms to achieve.
I told myself I would not be emotional. Man, just an honor to be here. Let me switch myself over. Thank you, Ms. Davis. Thank you for all that you have done. Man, we're gonna get through this. Normally do a little warm-up activity, but I'm warm. Y'all are warm. I don't want to warm you out. Before I ever speak, I always like to start about gratitude, because gratitude is just something that I have learned more so in the last 5 years, just how important it is to start my day, start everything I do with gratitude, because as human beings, as people, as educators, as mothers, fathers, friends, whatever your titles are, like every day we can wake up and think about all the terrible things, the bills doing what bills do, life doing what life does, and we can just let all of that pile on us. So what I've learned is when I just start my day thinking about what am I grateful for, I was sitting in here and I was like, it is refreshing to be in a room full of educators who are positive. Like, we can go in every single teacher's lounge across the country and you're gonna be like, wow, it's heavy in here. A lot of classrooms, like, they are very heavy spaces across schools. So it's an honor to be in a space with you all. So what I would ask, and I'm big on, like, y'all are gonna have to give me some energy back, so I'm gonna ask you questions, that's the teacher in me. I would ask 1 or 2 people that would like to volunteer and share something that they're grateful for today.
Depends on what age you are. I'm 88, so I frequently thank the Lord for the oxygen. It's really true.
That's 99% of the battle.
It's kind of amazing.
Yeah. Does anyone else have anything they want to share? All right, well, I'll jump in.
I will.
Oh, go ahead.
I have to do it. I was with undergraduate students today for their last class of the semester, people who want to go into education or they're thinking about education. And we've watched numbers just dwindle over the years of people just like, the pipeline's drying up. And I had, 14 students strong. And I asked them what, we have a budding partnership with Glenwood Elementary School in Greenfield. And right down the street, 50 second graders walked over here to Alverno, and my students transformed one of our college classrooms into a classroom that was appropriate for those littles, and taught a character lesson today. And so they taught them about kindness, and kindness to themselves, to their school community, to their families, and kindness to nature. And then they did a greenhouse tour and made bucket drops for each other's buckets, and it was just amazing. So that's what I'm grateful for. I'm grateful for the students that we have.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing.
I'm grateful for you being here and for your former teacher who helped plant little seedlings so that you can continue to pour into other people, and I'm excited to hear all that you have to share today.
Thank you. So for me, I am grateful to be here. I mean, as I share my story, like, I literally check all the boxes of kids that aren't supposed to be around. Just was at a funeral last week of one of my classmates, and you think of we often think of the students that have a lot against them, but I went to high school, went to Nicolay High School, so I had friends pulling up to school in BMWs, brand new, 16. I'm coming, as part of the 220 program in Milwaukee, getting bussed in or however I could get to school, and also understanding that just because it appears on the outside that people got everything, like there's still a lot of challenges and struggles from people that seem to have it all. So I just last week was at a funeral of a friend I spoke to her on Facebook 2 weeks prior. So just, we're sharing about just grateful for oxygen. Like I'm grateful that my feet are able to touch the floor, because every day is not promised, every day is not given. So every day that I'm here, I'm gonna be grateful for something. Life is gonna do what it does. My son is gonna get on my nerves. Work is gonna tire me out. But the fact that I'm even able to wake up and do what I do every day, it's like that's always something that I will be grateful for. So a little bit about me, you kind of heard some of the things that I've done. And I don't stand up here as the person that won the awards. I don't stand up here as the executive director, the school educator for 18 years. I stand up here as this young man. So I was probably about 15. Third grade, I was had my first IEP. I was diagnosed as emotionally disturbed. From third grade through sophomore year in high school, I was suspended about 30 times. I was expelled from middle school twice. Attended 3 different alternative schools. I was expelled as a freshman from high school. I returned to high school as a sophomore, and then I ultimately earned an athletic and academic scholarship to play football in college, which then ultimately got me to where I am today. And people often ask the question, like, what changed? When I say I check all the boxes, like, there's an Eddie DeShazer that's in your school that you're like, I don't know what to do. Like, in school, we love data. Like, I am the data that if you continue to just do the work consistently, it may not happen when they're in second grade. It may not happen in third grade. For me, it didn't click. It kind of clicked sophomore. I still had some struggles, but you just got to continue to do the work that you're doing. So I like to take this journey, and I'm going to need some participation for this. So I want you to think about the greatest educator that you've ever had in your entire life. Typically, when I am around educators, there's 1 or 2 reasons you got an education. One, it was either a teacher that you couldn't stand and you were like, I refuse to make students feel the way he or she made me feel when I was that age. Or there's that teacher that was just absolutely dynamic and you're like, I want to be like him or her. So I want you to picture yourself walking into school. First day of school, if you were like me, you had your outfit laid out on the chair, so like all you had to do was jump right in. You walk into the building, and when I say the word teacher, I say that a lot. I use it very loosely because if custodians are teachers, the office people are teachers, the food service people are teachers, the principals are teachers, everyone is teachers. Like if you are in a school, if you do anything under the roof, like to me, you are a teacher. So if I say teacher and someone's like, I'm not a teacher, like you are a teacher. It takes a village to raise these children and we're all teachers. So I want you to picture that dynamic educator and I want you to think of one word that you would use to describe that educator, and I'm going to ask for 2 volunteers. I want to hear who that educator is, and one word you would use to describe that educator. I'm going to get a popsicle stick cup up here, and I'm going to start pulling names in a second.
Mrs. Becky Peelan, creative.
Mrs. Becky Peelan, creative. And what I want to do, we have all these cheers, so when I say give 2 claps, it's just clap, clap. All right? We're not going to roller coaster. We're not going to. So let's say the name one more time.
Becky Peelan.
Miss Becky Peelan, creative. Let's give Miss Becky Peelan 2 claps. Awesome. Thank you. We can get one more.
Mr. Thompson, crazy.
Mr. Thompson, crazy. Let's give Mr. Thompson, crazy, 2 claps. So I want to talk about a teacher that ultimately changed my life. Miss Davis. Actually, let me show the video, then I'll talk to you about Miss Davis. Hopefully this will play with some sound.
Can we put a mic up?
I have, for the last 3 years, I've traveled the country talking. And I always talk about Miss Davis. As teachers, you do so much work that you don't get thanked for daily. Kid, you don't understand the impact that you guys have on kids. So Ms. Davis, I am honored that you are here today. Oh, man. Chris, who's been coming with me and traveling and recording, and he has heard her name so many times. I can't get in front of teachers and not talk about Ms. Davis, because as you heard, I was kicked out as a freshman. And Ms. Davis was my freshman Brit Lit teacher. I hated reading, but I showed up every day because Ms. Davis was there. She didn't think about what the other teachers told her I did. She didn't think about all the stuff that she read on my IEP, on my reports, but she showed up. She gave me her best when I gave her my worst. So Ms. Davis, I am honored that you are here, and I will forever be thankful for you. So I just want to thank you for that. So I want to thank again Ms. Davis for all of the countless nights of sleep that you probably got because you had a kid like me in your classroom. But Ms. Davis was special, and it's so weird. I've done and talked about this so many times, and I'll get emotional here and there, but it's always so weird when she's in the room, because it's like I get to say it to her. Because as teachers, we so often do all of this work, and you never get to see the fruits of your labor. And it's like, here it is. Like, I am proof of what can happen when teachers don't give up on you. We often talk about the make. I heard someone talk about the socioeconomic differences from their staff to their students. And I was a student at Nicolay High School. Probably at the time, 30% of our students were probably black and brown students. And Ms. Davis and I came from two completely different neighborhoods. I lived in a 2-bedroom apartment. Our apartment was so small, if I sneezed, my parents would be in another room, they'd be like, bless you. Like, that's how small our apartment was. You know, but Ms. Davis is proof that yes, statistics say that students learn better from people that look like them. There are statistics that show that. But what I can tell you is, don't let that be the reason that you don't connect with your students. I had a principal in middle school, I'm not gonna name him, but he was the first black male that I ever had. And he probably treated me worse than any other educator I ever had. So I said that to say, don't let the statistics fool you that just because a student doesn't look like you, you can't connect with them. And we're talking about all the connections. Like, I heard every single person that got up here, we talked about connections. Like, connections are what drive schools. I think education, where we are struggling in education, is we're trying to do all these advanced things, but we're not even doing the basic things right. Do our students feel safe and cared for? Does our staff feel safe and cared for? Like, we're worried about assessments and adding all these extra things, but like, can we meet the basic needs of the people in our building? Not just the students, not just the staff, but sometimes we gotta meet the basic needs of ourselves. So, I like to talk about faith. Definition of faith is firm belief in something for which there is no proof. Like, one of the things that there's 3 educators I'm gonna share with you today, Ms. Davis is one of them. They all had faith in where I was going, not where I currently was. So it's very easy for us to get caught up in what our students may do today. And yes, we gotta focus on the today as we're working with our students, but we have to see our kids for where they're gonna end up. So I wanna go through a couple photos. This is a picture, I think probably like 2017, maybe 2018. I started a scholarship at Nicolay because I'm big on giving back to the places that poured into me. And I started a scholarship there, and literally the first phone call I made, other than my wife, was to Ms. Davis. I said, Ms. Davis, I need you to come and be there with me and recognize you, because you see and hear all of the awards. I can't take credit for all these awards I've gotten, because had Ms. Davis not went to bat for me, I would not have finished at Nicolay. Like, I was expelled from Nicolay as a freshman. I was expelled from Nicolay because at the time I was a kid that was physical, let's say. I was not physical with the adults, but I was a wild kid. You're talking about crazy? Like, when teachers got their list, their roster, I can guarantee you they went back to the principal like, I can't do this. Like, you knew from what all other teachers told you that I was coming to your class and I was gonna give you some problems. So I had a lot of challenges, and when I was expelled from Nicolay as a freshman, it was because I punched the principal. So then from there, I spent my freshman year at St. Charles, and when I got there, it was a rude awakening for me. I was like, okay, like, I thought I was tough. I was like, I ain't that tough. Like, it was not. I spent my entire freshman year there, day treatment, sometimes staying there, and then I was fortunate enough to get back to Nicolay as a sophomore, and there's 3 individuals I'd like to highlight. First is Ms. Davis. This is a picture, and again, the thing that I want to point out is Ms. Davis and I don't look like each other. We didn't grow up in the same neighborhoods. We aren't the same age, we're not the same gender. Like literally, if you put us side by side, every single thing about us was different. But Ms. Davis connected with me more than any adult that I ever had in my entire life. And that was 15 years old when we met, 25 years ago. So I always like to read. I just finished my book in August, and I actually have copies for you all over there, but I like to read a paragraph because when I was finishing my book, and I said I hated reading, which I still don't really like reading, but I had to put my thoughts in a book, and I had to talk to Ms. Davis as my English teacher, like, will you write the foreword? So I just want to read a quick excerpt of this. And it says, I first met Eddie in my classroom as a 9th grade student who loved football, basketball, and not much else. To many, he appeared defiant, troublemaker, certainly not the student eagerly welcomed in class, yet I saw a fire within him. A fire that has never been extinguished. I believed in Eddie and what he could do, not what he had done. My teaching philosophy was simple. Look with respect at each student for who they are in your classroom. Not the classroom down the hall, or the lunchroom, or in the hallway, but when they are one-on-one with you, and believe in their potential for success. The word that I always hammer home is believe. We talk about achievement gaps. I like to say that we gotta close the believement gap. Like there is a struggle with educators today because we don't believe the work that we're doing is working. Like what I need you to understand is if you will consistently show up every single day, I am living proof of what can happen. I would be willing to, I tell our kids at our school, like there's nothing that you are doing right now that I haven't done at your age. I was drinking, I was smoking, I was skipping school, you name it, I've done it. Went to jail, I've had all of the same challenges. Like you're not gonna impress me with your struggles. Like I've went through it. I don't understand what you're going through, but know that I've went through it myself. But Ms. Davis saw a fire in me, and the word that I want us to hold on to today is believe. The next picture is Dr. Moser. Dr. Moser, this was a picture of us at one of our board meetings for the Closing the Achievement Gap Consortium. Dr. Moser was the superintendent that expelled me from school. And I think 2018, he reached out, he was like, hey, I want you to be on this board. And of course, I'm like, Dr. Moser, like, yeah, like, he did not have to, I don't know if I would have brought me back to school even today. To be honest, like, I can sit up here and be like, I don't know, I was some work. But he brought me back and gave me another opportunity, and because of that opportunity, that's where I won some of these awards. So when I say like these awards are great, like these awards don't happen without Ms. Davis, without a Dr. Moser. And this last picture is Dr. Means. He's currently the superintendent over at Wauwatosa. He was a principal that I punched. This was a picture, I think 2015, I reached out to him and I was like, at the time he was a superintendent in Atlanta, and I said, Dr. Means, will you come back and speak to our 8th grade students at graduation? So he was like, of course. And me, I understand, like you're traveling back from Atlanta, you're doing all of this to show up. I said, please let me know whatever it costs, your flight, whatever you need. And his response was, you being in the position that you are is payment enough. He showed up, spoke, and then this was a picture of us. This last fall, I was fortunate enough to keynote for his entire district, and I've done so much work with his district this year. I have another event with them next week. But what I need you to understand, like there's an Eddie Deshays in your class that you could be on a board with one day. Like you're trying to fathom it, you're like, I don't know. It's maybe a little off still. Like when you talk about certainly defined, like yeah, you're probably a little defined because there's no way this kid is gonna turn into this. But like when we talk about faith, like we have to see our kids for what they can become. Like there's kids in your school that are having struggles and challenges, and those things are, I ultimately said what teachers struggle with me was my superpowers. Teachers like, he can't sit still. 41 years old, I still can't sit still. They're like, he talks too much. Wow. Still out here talking too much. But like these three individuals, and on top of my parents, that's a whole nother story, but I like to highlight these three educators. If they would not have given me another chance at Nicolet, I would not be where I am. I would have ended up like all my other friends that are in jail. My 5 closest friends, only one of them is still alive, 2 are in jail, and the rest have overdosed from drugs. Like I know the path I was going on. When I was a freshman in high school, my only way out was the Army or the Marines or the Air Force. I was just like, I like to fight, that's all I can do. That's what I gotta do, but they gave me an opportunity that ultimately changed my life. It's like the butterfly effect. Like they changed my life, now I get the opportunity to go out and change others' lives. I had one of my first students came back to our school yesterday, and he talked to our students, and it was one of the first times I really sat back and understood like that. I talk about the impact, but it was the first time that I was really able to see the impact that I have. Like I've always spent all my time talking about the impact that you all have. And he was standing up there talking, and I was just like, man, that was that third grader. Like the kid that I had struggles with, like I'm his Mrs. Davis. So it was like a full circle moment. He flew back from Dallas, talked to our kids. Like, I need you to understand, like, the work that you're doing is critical. If you can look, no one's lining up. There's job openings everywhere. Like, no one is lining up to do the work that you're doing. So you are needed more now than ever. But I want to take a moment, and I want you to give these 3 educators 2 claps for me. All right, so I say teach by faith, not by sight. We have to see our kids for where they're going. Don't see them for the kid that gets on your nerves. Don't see them for the student that may have cussed you out. Don't see them for the student that, like, we don't know what our students are going through. Like, we're talking about the character work. Like, our kids some of them are really having some internal battles. Some of us are having some struggles. Some of our coworkers are having some struggles. Some of our parents are having some struggles, but we have to see them. There's one thing I've learned, is that there's nobody that I know or have ever heard of that wakes up every day and is like, I don't want to do well today. Like, everyone is doing their best. Like, you have coworkers that may be falling short, but they're doing their best. Like, they didn't wake up like, let me show up to work and fall short today. Like, I hope there's no teachers out here doing that. But we just have to understand that everyone is just trying to do their best. Even on days where we may fall short, like, the person next to you, pick them up. They're trying their hardest. So when we talk about, I'm big on relationships, I'm big on connections. That's why I love to be in this space, because all I heard was we're connecting, we're building relationships, we're being proactive, we're doing restorative work. And like, that is what, like, that's my love language. Like, y'all, I'm like, I was getting all warm and fuzzy listening to you all talk while you're up here. But ultimately, the foundation of any relationship, like, you can picture this like an iceberg. Like, here's the water right here. Like, we see the relationships, but the foundation of it is respect. Building a relationship without respect is possible. It is. But the moment you have troubles, the moment you have struggles, the relationship's gonna come crumbling down and fall apart. And I'm not even talking as much, my focus when I started doing a lot of this work was student to teacher relationships. My focus this last year and a half has been teacher to teacher relationships. Because what I have learned is it ain't the kids that are driving me crazy, it's the adults, it's the parents, it's our coworkers, because we spend so much time focusing on how can we connect with the kids that we forget that we gotta connect as adults. So, respect is the foundation of every single relationship. It needs to be the foundation. Now, if you have respect with a student, with a coworker, with your leadership, with whoever, it does not mean that you're not gonna have problems. I did this PD with our staff the first time, maybe like 6 or 7 years ago. And then I remember a couple months into school, a teacher came down, they were like, you said if we build respect and get respect with them, like, I was like, no, I didn't say it was gonna be good. I just said when those storms come, you're able to weather them. It's like when you're building a skyscraper, the taller the building goes, the deeper and stronger the foundation has to be. So the taller the relationships that we're trying to build in our classrooms, the deeper the foundation of respect has to be. So I'm gonna give you 6 quick tips and 6 ways to build respect. I'm not gonna talk on too much. I wanna make sure I honor our time. Oh, skipped one. Number 1, the platinum rule. Who knows the golden rule? What's the,
I use it all the time in my room. Treat others how you want to be treated.
treat others how you wanna be treated.
It's me.
The golden rule is treat others how you want to be treated. The problem with that I have learned is some people just don't want to be treated well. They're used to not being treated well by the people that matter to them. So the platinum rule is treat others how they want to be treated. Like, are we treating our students the way we want them to treat us, or are we treating them the way they want us to treat them? So number 1 is the platinum rule. The second one, I heard someone talking about agreements versus rules. I am big on we cannot have rules in school. We cannot have rules in classroom. Everything, little background about me, I am not an education person. My major is not in education. I woke up and stumbled into education. My bachelor's degree is in marketing. My minor is in coaching. My master's is in nonprofit business management, and my doctorate that I'm working on is in leadership. So I am not an education person. I view education completely different than most people. So I'm big on the words that we use in schools. I think of everything from a marketing brain. The words that we use matter. Rules are meant to be broken, agreements are meant to be met. So I'm gonna repeat that one more time. Rules are meant to be broken, agreements are meant to be met. We can spend all our time and focus talking about why students are breaking rules, or we can go to them and talk about why they're not meeting agreements. This is so important because when you get the buy-in from your students, the buy-in from your staff, the conversations change when there's struggles. The biggest mistake I think most educators make is when the students show up that first day, you have this big whole list of rules, and the kids didn't have any say in it. But then we're wondering why they're not bought into our classrooms, why they're not bought into our schools. And when I hear some of the work that we're doing with developing these character traits, it's like there's students that are helping us do this. That is critical because now they're bought in. When staff don't have a say, they're not gonna be bought in. So having agreements versus rules, that's the difference between when we have agreements and there's a struggle, I can say you agreed that you would respect everyone. That's a lot different than saying you broke the rule. Like there's different energy. In school, I'm all about the energy that we bring into the school. The next one is we have to model behaviors. Do as I do, not as I say. When I was growing up, I'm 41 years old, like our parents would do the opposite but tell us what to do, and we just had to do what they said because they were our parents. But we have to model the behaviors that we want our students to have. We have to model behaviors that we want our coworkers to have. We have adults in buildings that can't get along, but we're trying to tell students how to get along. Like that, the kids are intuitive. They can tell when two teachers don't like each other. You may not realize it, but kids are smart. They're a lot smarter than we give them credit for. So it is critical that we model the behaviors that we want our kids to have. Number 4, acknowledge their physical needs. We have to meet the basic needs of our students. If our kids are thirsty, we have to let them get a drink of water. It's this weird dynamic. We're talking about like power struggles and dynamics, and we have teachers that have on their desk, they walk in with their double grande mocha cappuccino, but then a kid can't even have a water. Like, think about how like crazy, like imagine the leadership in the school being like, I get coffee, but you don't. So like we have to make sure that we're meeting and acknowledging the physical needs of our students. If they have to use the bathroom, we have to let them use the bathroom. If a kid's bladder is full, their ears are full. I try to hammer this home with our teachers, and I get it, kids take advantage of it, they move around, they will pretend they have a snotty nose to get out of class. They say you have that one kid that's like, I need 30 drinks of water. Well, I need 30 drinks of water. One of the things that we have some teachers that are still kind of old school. And there was a teacher last year, Chris probably know what I'm talking about when I describe, but she was like, our kids can't chew gum. And I was like, I just asked, like, why not? Like, you want 2 kids to get in a group and work, and you want me as an 8th grader to get in a group with a young lady that I have a crush on, my breath doesn't smell good, and you're wanting me to have a conversation and work. What would I do at that age? I would act out so I could get out of class. What I'm not gonna do is be embarrassed in front of this girl I like. So why, if teachers can chew gum, if teachers can drink things, why can't our students do it? So we have to not acknowledge and meet the physical needs of our students. Next one is be fair and reasonable, and I did not say equal. Classrooms are not equal spaces. There's some students, I always use a pizza as an analogy. If we have, let's use this table because it's an even number. You came to school and had 3 slices of pizza, you had 1, you had 4, you had none. I have a whole slice of pizza, it would be equal to just say, hey, you all get 2 slices. But not everyone needs a slice. So we have to be fair and reasonable with our students, because when we are not fair and reasonable, who is gonna tell us? I was asking you guys. The students. And a student's perception is their reality. Like, we have to hear that when they're like, you treat me differently. A lot of teachers will be like, no, I don't, be quiet. Like, we have to, and I've been guilty of it. Like, I've been guilty of that. But like, we have to hear our kids when they're saying, you don't treat me like the other students. Because there's something that's going on where they feel you don't treat them like the other students. Like, hear them, their perception is their reality. It may not be your reality, but that's their reality. So we have to make sure that we are fair and reasonable. And the last one is we have to value their feelings and their views. I remember growing up, my dad would always be like, back in my day, we used to do this. Back in my day, we didn't have that. And then I caught myself the other day, I was like, talking to my son, like, I was like, oh my Lord. But like, we have to understand, like, our kids, just because their problems don't seem big to you doesn't mean it's not big to them. Like, just because someone calling you a name on Facebook doesn't bother you doesn't mean it doesn't eat our kids up inside. Like, we have to really value the feelings and views of our students. We have to understand and know where some of our kids are coming from. Like, a problem to a 41-year-old is a lot different than a problem to a 14-year-old. and I can't minimize their problem. One of the biggest mistakes I think some educators make is I know what you've been through. Just because someone was expelled from school does not mean I know what they've been through. There's a saying, there's two brothers, they grew up with an alcoholic dad. One brother grew up to be an alcoholic. When they asked him why, he said, because my father was an alcoholic. The other brother grew up and never touched a drop of alcohol, and they said, why? Because my father was an alcoholic. These two grew up in the exact same environment, had two extremely different experiences, and grew up to be two completely different people. So we have to make sure that we value the feelings and views of all of our students, even if you may think or know that where they came from. And when I'm saying this, I'm not talking about your black and brown students, I'm talking about all of your students. Like there's kids that like my son's in my household, like I don't know what life is like growing up as a 12-year-old in this world. Like I didn't have access to the whole world at my fingertips. I didn't know about the news. We were shielded from a lot of the nonsense that was going on in the world. So we have to make sure we value their feelings and their views. The next one is we gotta be real. And this one is so critical. There's three things we gotta be real with. One, who our students and parents are. I always tell a story of this student we had in 3rd grade. He was in 3rd grade. And he got off the bus, walking home from school, and got shot. This kid showed back up to school the next morning because for him, that was the safest space for him. Like I got teachers that have a flat tire and won't show up for a week. Like this kid was shot and showed up to school the next day. Like we have to understand, like there's some kids and there's some parents that don't like you. It's not because of anything you've done, it's because you remind them of someone else that they don't like. Like there's parents that will come and treat you some type of way. There's parents that think they know more than you and they've never spent a second in school. So we have to really be honest with who our students are and who our parents are, but the most important person we gotta be honest with is ourselves. Like we're talking about our cup needs to overflow. When COVID hit, people loved educators. They were like, put your mask on first, help yourself, we love you guys, here's gift cards at Starbucks, we love you. Come August, when those kids weren't back in school, they were like, take our kids, get them out of here. Like, we have to be so critical with who we are surrounding ourselves with. Like, this is a space that more educators need to be in. Not in the teacher's lounge where everyone's complaining. They need to be in a space like this. How are we ever gonna get new teachers when every time I open up Facebook, a teacher's like, oh, Sunday scaries, slam my laptop home, get me out of here. Like that's what we're showing 19, 20, 21-year-olds. Why would I want to do that? Like, so you're telling me I don't get paid and I'm gonna hate my job? Sign me up. Like, we have to be so intentional with who and what we are consuming as educators. One of the questions I always ask is a math question. If you subtract the negative, what do? You add. Like, we gotta start subtracting some of the negative people out of our lives. Sometimes it's a coworker, sometimes it's some friends, sometimes it's some family. Like for me, I had to stop drinking. I'm actually, where are we at, May 9th, and on June 1st, it'll have been a year since I've had a sip of alcohol. Because I knew that alcohol it made me terrible at everything I did. I was drinking, I wasn't sleeping well, I was sharp with my wife, I was waking up going, and this, I'm not even talking about like drinking heavy, like 1 glass of wine, and I was like snoring all night, waking up, and I was like, it affected everything I did. And I'm not sitting here trying to make anyone feel guilty. Go home and have a glass of wine, enjoy a glass of wine. What I'm saying is that it did not work for me. There are family members, as hard as it was for me, those family members I had to cut out of my life. Like, that's why when we talk about culture, I used to say we're a family. And then I started to realize the dynamic of family can be challenging. Like, the reason that I don't call our school a family anymore is because sometimes we tolerate nonsense from people and we justify it because they're family. Like, you can't disrespect me just because you're my family. So we call it a community now, because community, you got a choice to be here or not. Family, you're stuck, unfortunately. But I decided I'm not gonna be stuck. Like, you are not going to disrespect me. Like, I need peace, I deserve peace in my life. You deserve peace in your life. Like, stop letting these negative people, places, or things poke holes in you. Like, we don't need that. There's a picture. Do you charge your cell phones at night? Everyone charges their cell phone at night. Like, some of us are more worried if our cell phone's gonna die than if we are. Like, we'll do everything to charge our cell phones, but y'all are answering emails at 11 o'clock at night. You're staying up later, you're stressing out. You're responding to the principal. Tell him to stop. Tell him I said that, so you don't get in trouble. Like, just don't tell him I said that. But like, I cannot stress to you enough that we have to make sure that we are pouring back into ourselves. I was going back and forth, not in a bad way, back and forth with someone on social media, and they said, I'm struggling with going the extra mile for my students because it's burning me out. And the question I asked her, I said, why don't you go the extra mile for yourself? Because ultimately, this is what happens when you say, you know what, I'm gonna take this time to be better for myself. The time that you spend at work, you will be so much more dynamic. Like, there's nothing worse. And I think back, when I was winning these executive director awards, you could ask my wife, she was probably like, you were one of the worst husbands in the world. And it's not that I was running around and doing everything, but I was coming home at 6 o'clock drained. I had nothing left because I was too busy trying to win awards and as an executive director that I was willing to be divorced over it. Like, what we are not gonna do is give our school the best and our family the rest. Like, your title is temporary. I can promise you, I'm the executive director. If something were to happen to me, our board is gonna have a job ad up by next week. Like, all of us, our positions are replaceable. I am not replaceable as a husband. I am not replaceable as a father. You are not replaceable as a mother, as a spouse, as a wife, as a friend. Like, go the extra mile for yourselves, and you will ultimately look and be like, wow, I'm doing better in school. Like, when I have problems at home and I'm going to work, all I can think about is my problems at home and I'm not showing up to work. I'm not gonna ever tell someone to give their school 100%, because that's not fair to your family, and it's not fair to you. Like, you have to make sure that you are honoring yourself. Stop being so worried about your cell phone being full and make sure that you are full. And I've heard us talk about it, and I'm gonna repeat it. Oh, I tell our teachers that. Like, we had a teacher that last minute, you have like a 2-week, you need to put your stuff in for 2 weeks. She's like, I'm going to Dubai. Told us like 3 days in advance. I was like, enjoy yourself. You deserve it. She never misses work. Why would I care about some stupid policy that we have? Like, yeah, give us 2 weeks, but you didn't have 2 weeks, go enjoy yourself. Like, you have to make sure that you are pouring into yourself just as much as you are pouring into your school, pouring into your position, pouring into your students. Like, you deserve it more than anything else. So if there's anything, if you don't take anything else away from this, other than the fact that Ms. Davis is the coolest teacher ever, like, take away from the fact that, like, you deserve peace in your life. Stop letting all these other outside noise poke holes in your peace. Like, if there's anything, like, wake up and deserve peace. I don't care who it is in your family. You deserve it. So if there's anything else, I want you to take away from that. I gotta get through this last one quick. School's a cheeseburger. Go through it. Bottom bun, teachers are holding up the patties. Students, support staff is a cheese. The curriculum is the lettuce. The tomatoes, I always say the tomatoes can make or break a burger. Like, you got that tomato that's really good, but you guys don't have those tomatoes at your school. And then the top one is the administrators. But when we talk about the secret sauce in a school, and it's all about the words, the secret sauce in the school is relationships. That's what made the Big Mac special. It was nothing special. It was 2 all-beef patties, sesame seeds. It was Thousand Island dressing. But they called it the secret sauce, and people were convinced they needed it. The words that we use matter. The words that you use in a school matter. Was I a special education student, or was I a student that was in special education? Like, the words that we use matter. So I gotta get through this because we gotta wrap up. Take a quick picture of this. 6 tips that you can build relationships. I could go on all night about these. Most important one I'll talk about, don't be boring. This generation of kids have every single thing at their fingertips. When I was their age and the teacher said, what's the capital? We had to walk over to the thing, pull the encyclopedia off, flip through, figure it out. Like, these kids have all the answers they need right in their hands. So we have to make sure we're matching their energy. So I'm gonna get through these because I wanna get to the closing. These are some other activities. And all these activities that I say, I tell teachers to do them, but I tell administrators, it is so important that you build relationships with your staff. More than anything, I think that is the aspect that is missed so much in schools. But, to close, 2 types of educators. Thermometer educator is reactive. Think Ben Stein from Ferris Bueller. This type of educator can often be found in the teacher's lounge, complaining about something. The curriculum, the leadership, their spouse, their friends, their family. Like, we all know who it is. And the good thing is, normally I do this in a school, and I'm like, ooh, I know they're in here. I know they're not in here, because this is a different environment. That's why we need more people in this environment, so we can get rid of these Ben Steins. The next one is a thermostat educator. They are proactive. They set the temperature of the classroom. I spent my whole life with thermometer educators. Like, nothing about me changed. The educators changed. How they treated me changed. The environment changed. Think Sister Mary Clarence. like she changed the environment of the school. Like, you know the song? Like, oh, happy day. Okay. All right, we're not gonna do that. Not today, I can't sing. But ultimately, as I wrap up, what changed? People always ask, what changed? The secret sauce is a belief that if we transform the environment, we can transform the person. There is a video that Virgil Abloh, University of Madison graduate, he's like the ultimate definition of someone who's passed away that dreamed big. Like, people always called me crazy because we did our school construction project in 3 months. $5 million project, gutted a brand new building. We were working with Catalyst Construction. They're like, you're crazy. I said, y'all aren't crazy enough because this has to get done. Like, Virgil Abloh is a big dreamer. He talks about when he has a candle. It's this banged up little candle, and he was like, the thing about this candle, if I put it in the garage, you're gonna think it's trash. But if I spend more time building this beautiful white room, putting some fancy lights, building this pedestal, and putting the candle there, you're gonna think it's art. We have to focus more on the environment we are putting our candles in and not the candles. The secret sauce is a belief, and we're talking about belief, that if we transform the environment, we can transform the person. Eddie DeShazer has not changed. The environments that I've been put in have changed. The teachers that were around me have changed. How they responded to me has changed. I didn't change. They focused on the environment. So the question that I ask as I close is, do you believe? And I'm a big person. I don't think anything is a coincidence. But when I got these cards, the top card said, the future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams, from Eleanor Roosevelt. Like, do you believe in the dreams of your students? Do you dream that your students can go from having IEPs to, I'll be in North Dakota, I've seen more places because of my gift as a speaker than I've ever seen anywhere else. Like, do you have big dreams, not for yourself, but do you dream that your kids can be big things? Like, I guarantee you, Jeff Bezos probably was not a straight A student. His teachers probably called him crazy, probably told him he wouldn't sit still, and he's changed the world with Amazon. Like, the people that are changing the world are big dreamers. But when we talk about character, everything starts with our belief. Our belief becomes our thoughts become our words become our actions become our habits, and our habits become our character. Like, we're talking about character. But it all starts with our belief. If you don't believe your kids can, they won't. You're right. But if you believe they can change the world, I guarantee you that they will change the world. I stand here, not as an award-winning executive director, not as all these other cool things. I stand here as a 15-year-old who needed a teacher to believe in him. A teacher in 2nd grade could have believed in me, and they didn't. My black principal, the first black educator I had, could have believed in me in 6th grade, and he didn't. Instead, I was in Project Respect on 92nd in Oklahoma. Like, I stand here because an educator believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. So the question I would leave you with is, do you believe? Thank you all for the time. Thank you for sharing this space with me.
Woo! All right, we're fired up, okay? And we believe. Now, you're going home, you know? The reality is everybody's going home. Let me switch this over really quick. Yes, okay. And you have a couple more weeks with the kids to choose to believe or not. So, you gave the gift, you gave the surprise away, gave it away. Okay. It's okay.
See, I still get in trouble.
Okay. So the surprise, we have single person in here is going to be able to get one of Edward's books because he believes in all of you. And he believes through his book that so eloquently lays out intentional relationships and how to go about it. That's the gift that can keep pouring into you for you to continue to believe this year and in the upcoming years. The other thing that you will be getting is a Spotify playlist. If you have not gotten us your songs yet, or if you want to add more songs, give that to us, because in the upcoming weeks, we're going to share that with you, just so when you're believing all those things, maybe you need a song or a tune from this group to say, okay, I can spur myself into believing forever to come. The last thing that we're asking everybody to do, if you can, and here's the glitch with this, we know reception's not working in here. So a lot of people, when we had QR codes up before, they weren't pulling up. But here's the QR code for the survey, if you can. And we will also, in addition, send that out. So I'll give everybody a moment to pull that up if you can, if you want to take it here. But the reality is we can't do this without you. And your feedback, whether that's a glow or a grow or both, is very important. It's very important because we know that there's opportunities for growth. We also know that we've done a lot of great things this year, but if you don't tell us, we don't know. So we're actually saying, please take the time to give us that information so that we can grow next year, because we know you believe in us. Edward will be signing the books too, if you want his signature in your personal book. So as we end tonight, it's important that a huge thank you goes out to you as schools, but then also to every single person that is behind here. And what we wanted to do was go around to all the coaches and every single person that is behind the scenes to just share out one word of wisdom or a sentence that you could pour into people so they can keep believing and being. So who from the coaches would like to start?
All right, whichever one you're gonna do, keep doing it. You're either doing this.
Mic drop. Okay. Who's next? Okay.
I don't know what that meant, but anyway. You did, okay, Mr. Bieber knew too. Okay, so, I need your help. I need your help. I need your help getting the word out about, as Edward came in and just said, like, this is a group of people, we're like-minded individuals that are crazy enough to believe. And we want to let other people know that what we're building is a network of people who are believing and want to support one another on this journey. So that's what I would like to say. And in case you're like, who is she anyway? I'm Ronette, and I'm one of the co-directors for LACCS, and my work for LACCS is design. So if you had to design the program. So if you have any questions about the design, or you'd like to add or share anything with me, please contact me. Emails come from the co-director Julie and from Jean, they're back there, and they will be letting you know how to reach me if you would like to do so.
Tell us one more time, Renee. What do you want us to do?
I would like for you to spread, okay, spread the word. Spread the word about what we're doing here, what you're doing in your buildings. This is a network, not for you to come so much and get something. It's really that we want to come together and build something. So think about that as the next iteration. By the way, LACCS isn't changing next year. I've been changing it every year. For those of you who've been with us for like 3 years, it's like every year something different. Next year, the structure stays the same, and we're going to just continue on this journey, just as it is right now. So, thank you. You want to say something, Mr. Pieper?
No, you can say it one more time.
Okay, Mr. Pieper. If you're like, who's Mr. Pieper? Mr. Pieper is not on that list there, but Mr. Pieper is and lives
are the folks that support us with funding for this program. So the life work of Mr. Pieper has been to pour in to children. Mr. Pieper's wife, kindergarten teacher. Mr. Pieper's a businessman. Mrs. Pieper's a kindergarten teacher. She's the real deal. And we're just grateful to them. All right, who would like to
Bring
go?
more people. Mr. Pieper said bring more people. Wants to see more educators.
Who would like to go next? My share? Whew, my share is gonna be continuing to do the work from the inside out. Because you will show up evolved and more conscious, and that has a grave impact on humanity. Who would like to go next? Heather?
I figure out where to go so I can see everybody. I would say, then what I say to all of you, I say to myself that we're cultivating this way of being, which really what matters, how we be. And I'm going to invite us all to continue to listen to our intuition, to listen to the intuition of our young people and all the people in our lives. And leadership looks a lot of ways. There are those folks who are like walking that crazy line of like, people are following them down a path. And Mandela Barnes was one of my students, and when he was a student, I would say to him, Mandela, are you using your powers for good or for evil right now? But I knew he was a leader, right? So leadership looks a lot of ways, and so how can we seek that? Lauren, sure. My partner.
Thank you, partner. I'll build on that. As you be in community. This is not a journey that you walk alone. And I would also offer, people always say be the change you wish to see. I would offer that you are the change that you're seeing. So if you're not seeing change, it's because you're not being that change, and you should reflect on that.
Okay, we're going to point you out. We're going to point you out there. She is behind the scenes, but she's a big part of the behind the scenes. If it wasn't for being a lot of you get emails all the time from her, so I think it's important for you to know.
It is me.
And she helped tremendously with our Spotify. So just remember that when you're playing those tunes. Julie, would you like to say something?
Okay. Come be on the camera.
Come in front of the camera.
I'll take care of it. I got you. Don't worry about it.
I just want to say, I know Future took us through the program for the year, and she said, what did you get away from each of these speakers? And I think what's really great is that your schools are all so different, your cultures are very unique, and character shows up in different ways. And so just knowing your school, know your stakeholders, and then really you'll be able to model what that looks like for those kids, those parents, and those colleagues, and just keep doing it. And you're all doing it so great in different ways. So thank you for being part of this.
Thank you, Julie.
Happy birthday.
I'm gonna come to the side so I'm not awkwardly in the middle. Hi everyone, Ariane. I would say words of wisdom to leave you with. If there's anything to take away from tonight, it is to celebrate your successes. There's so many good things happening in your schools. Really think about them and then how you can replicate that. So you're doing great work out there. Thank you, and keep doing it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Edward. That was really impactful, your speech tonight.
Yeah.
So thank you. Keep doing what you're doing too.
We're gonna get some representation.
And I just want to say, continue to believe in the work that you're doing. Like, I'm just echoing everyone else. You're doing amazing things, and just continue to show up for your students, because ultimately this is for them. And so I wish you guys a great, strong finish to the end of the year. And yeah, I thank you so much for this evening. It was fantastic. Edward's going to be here to sign any books if you have that. The survey will be sent out, or if you could scan it, I'll put that back up there if you want to try the survey. Any other final announcements, Julie?
No.
Heather?
I'd like to thank Katie and Future for the
Thanks so much, everyone. Have a great evening.